right, we're live, I think. Everything should be working. Hello, welcome. I hope everyone's had an awesome week. This has been such a crazy week. Oh my gosh. Um, Obviously, we're back with another Bible study stream, which is like super exciting. I'm so glad that we started this series last week and it went, I would say, really well. I don't think we've ever hit numbers as large as we did as during that stream, which is crazy. I know Twitch and YouTube mostly when people are streaming, they're doing games or I don't know, some form of like typical entertainment stuff. And so like I love the Bible, but like I don't think for most people it would probably fall under the category of entertainment. Um or at least I don't think that's what most people are coming to Twitch and YouTube for is the Bible. Um it's so seeing that last week that we had that sort of a turnout was phenomenal. Um and then from there, like we started doing YouTube Shorts again. I mentioned last week though I wanted to start, dipping my toes into the world of YouTube Shorts, and so we uploaded one, and it did decently. It was, I think we got like 80 views or something on it. I was like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. Um, and so then I was thinking back on the Black Ops 7 stream, and I was like, oh, there was a really funny moment in that I haven't gone back and watched yet. And so I went back and watched it for myself, and it was hilarious. And a friend and I decided that all right, we need a short of that, and so I made one of that, and it also hit like 80, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. Uh, Later that day, I looked back at it, and it had passed 1,000. Um, I'm not used to anything like that yet. That was so cool. So thank you to everyone who, for some reason, felt inclined to watch my video about hog riders. Um, it was just we were playing Black Ops 7 and someone redeemed the hog rider sound for the first time, and it was hilarious. But apparently everyone loved that, and so thank you. I think it's super random, but I was like, all right, we struck something. I was like, all right, let's try another one of the Bible shorts, because the first short we did was the Bible one, and then we did the Hog Rider. I was like, let's do another Bible one because like I'd love to see that level of success with something that ties back into God. I would love to see God be as popular. I'd love to see God be more popular than Hog Rider, in all honesty. So I was like, let's do another one of those, and so I think we put one up yesterday, and it's on track to catch up to Hog Rider now, which is that's such a random thing. Like it's so weird to think we've got Hog Riders and Psalms 23 are like the best performing things we've ever done, which is really a random pair. Um, but like that's my hope is like I want our regular content, like our gaming, whatever. Yes, that's super important. And I think that's a nice gateway because not everyone's just going to seek out the Bible or these sorts of things. So I think if we can get our foot in the door with other things, and then people are like, all right, I like what's going on here. I'm going to watch more of this stuff, and then they find the Bible stuff. They're like, wait, this guy talks about the Bible. What's that? And then before they do it, they're watching videos about the Bible. They're reading the Bible. They're doing these things, and then Jesus is in. Like, and I pray that in that people find him in a way that resonates with them. It transforms their lives. Like we are here. I believe we are all here if we allow ourselves to be, to serve God and to bring forth the message of the gospel and salvation. And so if we can do that through whatever we're doing here, I'd say I'm really happy. So thank you to everyone who has been joining us along the way for that. I'd say beyond what Hog Rider did, um like we've gotten a decent amount of like a third of the amount of subscribers we had on YouTube. We've now gained another of that purely from the Psalms 23 short. So it's like Jesus is resonating with people. The Bible's resonating with people. That just there's so much negativity on the internet, and so to see something like that, that gives me hope. That makes me feel really happy. And so today we're continuing that. We're going to continue pressing into God and whatever He would do. And so today we're going to be reading the book of Ecclesiastes, which is not typically a book that people recommend right off the bat, especially not to new believers. It was always one of those ones where it's like, you read it eventually, maybe, but it's not a very happy one. It's probably one of the saddest books in the Bible, up there with like Job, almost. And though I mean, the whole point of Ecclesiastes, if we go into, I think NIV actually has um, like an introductory thing that I want to read because I thought this was cool. ESV didn't have it, but NIV has this intro, and so I'll read this. This will give a bit of context for the book, but like again, this isn't one that people typically recommend. But these days, I think Especially I'm part of Gen Z, and so I think a lot of Gen Z echoes a certain sentiment that is present all throughout this book. And so I think there's a lot of stuff here that'll resonate with people. But then beyond that, the stuff that'll resonate is the painful stuff. It's no one likes to talk about it, but it's very true. But then I think beyond that, Ecclesiastes gives an answer and a solution to the painful stuff that I think so many people will resonate with. And so I think if we can bring that to people, I don't know, I think there's something there that we'll benefit from. I think there's something really useful there. And so this intro that the NIV has says Ecclesiastes is the collected words of a teacher or a preacher. The teacher is described as having been king over Israel and Jerusalem and as the son of David. Both of these mean that he was in the royal line of Judah. He is not further identified, and while tradition identifies him with Solomon, it is appropriate to leave this cloak of anonymity in place. I'll say right here, I 100% believe it's Solomon. We can explain that after this, but I'll keep going. But yeah, I do believe it's Solomon. But anyway, the repeated phrase, meaningless, meaningless, everything is meaningless, warns us that life's rewards are uncertain and ultimately unsatisfying. The teacher pursues this insight in a long discourse that shifts between prose and poetry, and between autobiography and straightforward teaching. The book makes observations and poses questions, returning to themes like the wind, rough round and round it goes, ever returning on its course. When the teacher says, "What is crooked cannot be straightened," he reminds us that something wrong has intruded into our world. This fits the larger Jewish story told in the rest of the scriptures. Setting things right again is what this bigger drama is about. The teacher, however, does not tell us about God's attempts at straightening the world. He is content to say that God is sovereign over all things, and it is our duty to follow his ways for living, since God will bring every deed into judgment. And so, here, let me switch back to. I want to try to do a different translation each week. I think that'd be cool. So this week we'll do ESV. Um, but yeah, again, I do believe that the teacher mentioned here is Solomon. If you look at the stories of the Bible, Solomon is the son of David, who is his successor as the king of Egypt. And Solomon, when he begins to reign, God asks him, ask me for anything and it'll be given to you. And Solomon asks him for wisdom so that he can lead the people in a way that is pleasing to God. And so God tells him essentially, hey, because most people would ask for riches or power or wealth or all these things, but because you haven't asked for these things but have asked for wisdom, I will give you wisdom beyond measure, as has never been seen before and will never be seen again. But then I'm also going to give you all the other things that you didn't ask for. And so Solomon becomes the wisest man to ever live. But in that, the wisest, richest man eventually starts to chase after a lot of the pleasures of the world. He chases after lust and women, and that becomes his downfall in a lot of ways. And so, very much this narrative in Ecclesiastes of this man who's the son of David and king of Israel, which already I think that kind of identifies him fairly well, but also who is talking constantly about these ideas of you having everything in the world means nothing. There's no point to any of it, ultimately, unless you have God. But it very much sounds like Solomon, perhaps at a time after his fall, realizing, oh my gosh, what have I done? None of this matters. I'm chasing after dust. I need something beyond this, and that's where he refines God. Again, like the intro said, we don't know for sure that it's Solomon, but I'd say it's like again the son of David, king in Jerusalem. I think it's pretty on the nose. But yeah, I guess it doesn't blatantly say it's Solomon, so who knows? Um, but with that said, let me make sure I don't have anything from anyone who's trying to join. Um, all right, here, let me send out one last notification to a couple people. I know there were a couple people that wanted to be here, and I haven't seen them yet, so I'll remind them. This will be a fun one. Last week we did the Book of John, and I think that was a wonderful start. I think that was fitting because I wanted to start with Jesus. I wanted to start with a gospel, and that. No, generally, I think that's a fairly nice gospel. I think that's one. I was going to say one of the more popular ones. There's only really four, um, but all right. Here, let me one more person. All right, perfect. There we go. With that though, let me find my backup chat. Okay, I don't want to lose it. Perfect. We're ready. So we'll be in Ecclesiastes 1. All is vanity. The words of the preacher, the son of David, king in Jerusalem. Vanity of vanities, says the preacher, vanity of vanities. All is vanity. What does man gain by all the toil at which he toils under the sun? A generation goes, and a generation comes, but the earth remains forever. The sun rises, and the sun goes down, and hastens to the place where it rises. The wind blows to the south, and goes around to the north. Around and around goes the wind, and on its circuits the wind returns. All the streams run to the sea, but the sea is not full. To the place where the streams flow, there they flow again. All things are full of weariness. A man cannot utter it. The eye is not satisfied with seeing, nor the ear filled with hearing. What has been is what will be, and what has been done is what will be done, and there is nothing new under the sun. Is there a thing of which it is said, "See, this is new"? It has been already in the ages before us. There is no remembrance of former things, nor will there be any remembrance of later things yet to be among those who come after. The vanity of wisdom. I, the preacher, have been king over Israel and Jerusalem, and I applied my heart to seek and to search out by wisdom all that is done under heaven. It is an unhappy business that God has given to the children of man to be busy with. I have seen everything that is done under the sun, and behold, all is vanity and a striving after wind. What is crooked cannot be made straight, and what is lacking cannot be counted. I said in my heart, I have acquired great wisdom, surpassing all who were over Jerusalem before. An awkward time, but we welcome your hog rider. Hello, skunk. Here, 1 second. I said in my heart, I have acquired great wisdom, surpassing all who were over Jerusalem before me. And my heart has had great experience of wisdom and knowledge. And I applied my heart to know wisdom, and to know madness and folly. I perceived that this also is but a striving after wind. For in much wisdom is much vexation, and he who increases knowledge increases sorrow. Friend, hi skunk, how are you doing? We're reading Ecclesiastes today. It's such a fun one. It's everyone's favorite book, I think. Probably not, but it's a wonderful one. It's really good. So this first chapter. Well, first of all, also I'll ask, how are you doing? I don't want to rush past that. I hope you're doing well. I think it's still the weekend, right? Is it Sunday there? Hopefully you've had a good weekend. This first chapter essentially lays the groundwork. I'm well. Good. Good. So this first chapter, chapter 1 of Ecclesiastes, kind of lays the groundwork for the rest of the book and what it covers. Again, this idea of whatever we do, nothing we do matters. The sun comes out, the sun comes down. Everything happens over and over again. There's nothing new. You could try all you want. You're not going to achieve anything that hasn't happened before. Even people generations from now, they're going to think, oh, I'm doing something great, but it's already been done. There's no point in any of it. It's a good book. Yes. So I think a lot of people will resonate with this idea. Like, no matter how hard you try, you're not accomplishing anything crazy. It's been done before. Someone's already done it. No one's going to remember that you did it. So what point is there? Even if you're chasing after the greatest things, it's not going to last. None of it means anything. And so, again, I definitely do believe this is Solomon. I think everything points to that. So, I'll disagree slightly with that intro, but that it was written. But I do believe this is Solomon. And so, ultimately we'll find out what this means. Because right now it's like, oh, that's pretty grim. Why is that in the Bible? There's a point behind all this. Ultimately, the point, if there are people who can't stay for the whole stream, it ends up being that if you find God provides value because God is outside of these things. God lasts. God knows all that has been done. He holds on to these things. And so from the eternal perspective that having a relationship with God brings, there is meaning behind all these things. There is a greater purpose. But right now, again, we're kind of setting the stage of this kind of bleakness. This, it's almost, what's that word called? Like where people believe like nothing matters, and I can't remember the word. God is the one who matters. Yeah, exactly. That's the conclusion that we'll get to. What do they call that? There's an English word for that, right? Someone who's like, oh, life doesn't matter. A nihilist, I think. A nihilist. It's very nihilistic in nature almost. But again, as we go on, we'll see that there is meaning. There is purpose, and Solomon does find that. So Ecclesiastes 2. The vanity of self-indulgence. I said in my heart, come now, I will test you with pleasure. Enjoy yourself. But behold, this also was vanity. I said of laughter, it is mad, and of pleasure, what use is it? I searched with my heart how to cheer my body with wine, my heart still guiding me with wisdom, and how to lay hold on folly, till I might see what was good for the children of man to do under heaven during the few days of their life. I made great works. I built houses and planted vineyards for myself. I made myself gardens and parks, and planted in them all kinds of fruit trees. I made myself pools from which to water the forest of growing trees. I bought male and female slaves, and had slaves who were born in my house. I had also great possessions of herds and flocks, more than anyone who had been before me in Jerusalem. I also gathered for myself silver and gold, and the treasure of kings and provinces. I got singers, both men and women, and many concubines, the delight of the sons of man. So I became great, and surpassed all who were before me in Jerusalem. Also my wisdom remained with me, and whatever my eyes desired I did not keep from them. I kept my heart from no pleasure, for my heart found pleasure in all my toil, and this was my reward for all my toil. Then I considered all that my hands had done, and the toil I had extended doing it, and behold, all was vanity, and a striving after wind, and there was nothing to be gained under the sun. The vanity of living wisely. So I turned to consider wisdom and madness and folly, for what can the man do who comes after the king? Only what has already been done. Then I saw that there is more gain in wisdom than in folly, as there is more gain in light than in darkness. The wise person has his eyes in his head, but the fool walks in darkness. And yet I perceive that the same event happens to all of them. Then I said in my heart, what happens to the fool will happen to me also. Why then have I been so very wise? And I said in my heart that this also is vanity. For of the wise as of the fool there is no enduring remembrance, seeing that in the days to come all will have been long forgotten. How the wise dies just like the fool. So I hated life, because what is done under the sun was grievous to me, for all is vanity, and a striving after wind. The vanity of toil. I hated all my toil in which I toil under the sun, seeing that I must leave it to the man who will come after me, and who knows whether he will be wise or a fool. Yet he will be master of all for which I toiled, and used my wisdom under the sun. This also is vanity. So I turned about and gave my heart up to despair, over all the toil of my labors under the sun, because sometimes a person who has toiled with wisdom and knowledge and skill must leave everything to be enjoyed by someone who did not toil for it. This also is vanity, and a great evil. What has a man from all the toil and striving of heart with which he toils beneath the sun? For all his days are full of sorrow, and his work is a vexation. Even in the night his heart does not rest. This also is vanity. There is nothing better for a person than that he should eat and drink and find enjoyment in his toil. This also I saw is from the hand of God. For apart from him, who can eat or who can have enjoyment? For to the one who pleases him, God has given wisdom and knowledge and joy, but to the sinner he has given the business of gathering and collecting, only to give to the one who pleases God. This also is vanity, and a striving after wind. I'm seeing some messages are coming up, but what does that say? Okay, so OBS didn't show me a thing. What did you do, Skunk? I see a plus 450. What did we just do? That's like a... I can't make out what it says, but I see something is plus 450. You're on fire, and yay. It's not showing me everything. Uh-oh. But plus 450 and yay sounds great. 7-stream streak. Oh my gosh. No way. Heck yeah. Congratulations. That's awesome. That's so cool. But yeah, so again here, nothing matters. Again, Solomon had everything the world could have to offer. Any pleasure, anything that could be enjoyed, he enjoyed it to the fullest. And it got him nowhere. Think of like all the rich people who are like, oh, there are rich people who tell you, oh yeah, money can't buy you happiness, and it sounds like a thing. It's like, oh, of course you're rich, you don't know, but it would mean so much to me. But no, like sincerely, they're telling the truth. We might not be rich. I'm not rich personally. I can't speak that truth from experience. But like there is truth to it. Even if you have everything that the world has to offer, none of that does matter. You ultimately have nothing. I think of the verses somewhere in the New Testament where Jesus says, "Do not store up your treasures on earth, where rust decays and moths eat, but store your treasures rather in heaven, where rust does not decay and moth does not eat, where it will last forever. And so, like, the things of the world won't last. We might feel temporary joy, but it's almost like a substance abuse, like a substance addiction. Uh, you have a little bit of it, and it's like, oh, this feels really good, but then it wears off, and so you have to take more of it. And then as you keep going, eventually you'll build a tolerance, and the same amount won't get you the same feeling you used to have, and so you need to take more, and it gets worse and worse and worse until this thing is controlling your life. And a lot of times people might not survive that, and so it's like this is the same way. None of these things are ultimately good for you. None of these, I mean, these things aren't inherently bad. Not all of them. There's nothing wrong with having fun and enjoying life within reason. Um, but these things aren't fulfilling long term. They're not gonna last. And so, similarly, howdy, hey, that one Dan probably. How are you doing? We're in Ecclesiastes. It's fun so far. It's going really well. Um, but then he's also talking about like your work, not just your possessions, but the work, the things you start. Those are gonna keep going. Then who knows who's gonna take over for you? Like, say I do this channel for 80 years. It's probably not gonna happen, but maybe we're doing Twitch and YouTube and whatever for 80 years, and then I die. That's crazy. Say for some reason some random guy takes over for me. I don't know why he did that. I don't know who gave him permission, but he takes over for me. Well, I'm dead. I can't choose what he does with his channel. And then he starts doing like really inappropriate, wild things, and he's getting involved with all sorts of scandals. And then our whole channel goes under because this dude was like doing really bad stuff. Well, I might have worked really hard for the 80 years I was there, but I have no control over what comes next. It's in his hands now, and so if he destroys it, he destroys it. I have no say in it. It's like, you know, that applies to any line of work. Like whatever your line of work is that you do, imagine you leave someday and some replacement comes in that you don't choose, and it does terrible things where you did great things. It's like, but like that's how it is. We have no control over what happens after we're gone, and so, to try to control those things or to try to act like it's gonna matter is all in vain. None of it, you can't. So again, none of this stuff that is temporary is significant. Super, really happy book so far. I hope you're all super cheerful. I think I fixed my VR controller so we can try playing again next time. Oh, nice. And God is good. Yes, he is. God fixes VR controllers. In case you didn't know. Actually, I've seen that personally, but story for another day. God is very good. Amen. All right, a time for everything. Here, this is a bit more cheerful. Oh, I'm remembering a thing that comes up in Ecclesiastes. Wait. Oh my gosh. Oh, I'm getting so excited. Chat, we're gonna move on. Oh my gosh, I can't wait for that chapter. There's a chapter in here I'm super excited for that I just remembered exists. Anyway, I'm not gonna get distracted. A time for everything. For everything there is a season, and a time for everything, or a time for every matter under heaven. Excuse me. A time to be born and a time to die. A time to plant and a time to pluck up what is planted. A time to kill and a time to heal. A time to break down and a time to build up. A time to weep and a time to laugh. A time to mourn and a time to dance. A time to cast away stones and a time to gather stones together. A time to embrace and a time refrain from embracing. A time to seek and a time to lose. A time to keep and a time to cast away. A time to tear and a time to sow. A time to keep silence and a time to speak. A time to love and a time to hate. A time for war and a time for peace. What gain has the worker for his toil? I have seen the business that God has given to the children of man to be busy with. He has made everything beautiful in its time. Also, he has put eternity into man's heart, yet so that he cannot find out what God has done from the beginning to the end. I perceive that there is nothing better for them than to be joyful and to do good as long as they live. Also, that everyone should eat and drink and take pleasure in all his toil. This is God's gift to man. I perceive that whatever God does endures forever. Nothing can be added to it, nor anything taken from it. God has done it so that people fear him. That which is already has been. That which is to be already has been. And God seeks what has been driven away. Oh, hey, NL, ¿cómo estás? Here, entre menos piensas, menos te das cuenta de que el kilo de pan volvió a subir de precio. Hey! A kilo of bread. I understand some of this. Here, after I finish this chapter, I could go back to that and try to figure it out. But yes, hola, I hope you're doing well. I hope you've had a good weekend. Um, from dust to dust. Moreover, I saw under the sun that in the place of justice, even there was wickedness, and in the place of righteousness, even there was wickedness. I said in my heart, God will judge the righteous and the wicked, for there is a time for every matter and for every work. I said in my heart with regard to the children of man that God is testing them, that they may see that they themselves are but beasts. For what happens to the children of man and what happens to the beast is the same. As one dies, so dies the other. They all have the same breath, and man has no advantage over the beasts, for all is vanity. All go to one place. All are from the dust, and to dust all return. Who knows whether the spirit of man goes upward and the spirit of the beast goes down into the earth? So I saw that there is nothing better than that a man should rejoice in his work, for that is his lot. Who can bring him to see what will be after him? I think there's a lot of validity there as well. If you don't know what comes next, so you rejoice for what is. Later in life, beyond life, things might get worse. They might get better. But we don't know. We don't have a way of knowing. It's so you'll appreciate what is. That's not to say don't strive for more. There's a difference between contentness and complacency. Complacency is saying, yeah, this is fine. I don't need more. I don't need to get better. This is okay. This is good enough. And that's where you start to miss out because there's always more. Things can always be better. God always has more that he wants to give and do. Um, and so complacency is dangerous. But contentness is saying, all right, whether I have a little bit or whether I have a lot, I'm happy with where we are, and I'm looking forward to growing and going into what is next. And so, you know, when we have work, whatever our work that is that we do here, it's important to be able to appreciate that and to enjoy it. God's got you there in that season, in that place for a reason. And so, even if it's difficult, even if it's super terrible, even the worst things don't happen without a reason. That's not the typical, oh no, your grandma died, God works in mysterious ways sort of response. Like that, sure, he does, but like, yeah, be careful with that. But like, that is to say that when things are bad, like say, um, I met a guy once who had gone to prison, and this was a locksmith, and he was helping me, and he was telling me his testimony. He said he went to prison. I don't remember what for, but while he was there, he encountered Jesus. Jesus came to him. I think Jesus came to him in a dream or something and spoke to him. And so he had a radical encounter there, and he accepted God, and he said, "All right, I'm going to live my life for Jesus now." And so while he was there, he spent so much time just in prayer, reading his Bible, just alone with God. And when he came out, he wanted to be able to share that with people. And so now, in his work, he'll testify to people. He'll tell them about what God's done for him and what God can do for them. And so it's like he could have very easily said, "Why am I in this situation? Why am I in jail? This is miserable. I don't want to do this." But he saw the opportunity that God was providing, and he allowed God to change him for the better through that. And so, now that we're all going to go to jail, I pray that you guys don't go to jail. But whatever happens, we can let the bad situations stay bad and just accept them as terrible things and wait for them to get better. Or we can look for the significance there. We can look for what God wants us to find and why. And so that's a big thing. Um, Again, up here, everything. There's a time for literally everything, which also ties into that. If things are rough, okay, it's because there's a purpose for it. Eventually, things will get better. There's a time for that. Um, each of these has a good and a bad, um, and so yes, there's. I don't know. As that's the gist of it. Is like you don't just assume, oh, I'm suffering for no reason. Don't just assume things shouldn't be difficult right now. Okay, yes, ideally they wouldn't be, but if they are, look past that. And even if you can't find the reason for why, find comfort, find assurance in the promise that things will be better, whether they're better in this life or they're better beyond this. Because even if things suck here forever, even if you have the worst life ever, talk with Job. He might have had it rougher, but even if you have a really rough life, what comes after that's going to be great. And so it's like just hold on. That's easy to say when I'm not going through anything crazy right now. It's easy to say when things seem all right. It's a lot harder to say when you're in that moment, when people are dying, when people are sick, when things are getting destroyed. But if we can keep that perspective, even in the darkest, most difficult times, then gosh, there is so much that'll come from that. Uh, and again, I'd say to anyone here, if you guys notice anything, I'm not going to notice everything in this book, so please, if you guys have thoughts, if you guys see a verse or something sticks out and you want to talk about it, please bring it up in chat. I'd love to hear what you guys want to say. Um, I read the Bible on my own a lot, and so that I hear my own thoughts quite often. I would love to hear your guys' thoughts. I would love to hear what other people think and how they, because everyone's gonna take different things from this, and so you know, there could be 30 of us all reading the same book, and we're gonna have 30 different interpretations of it. And so that's super cool. But anyway, Ecclesiastes 4, evil under the sun. Again, I saw all the oppressions that are done under the sun, and behold, the tears of the oppressed, and they had no one to comfort them. On the side of their oppressors there was power, and there was no one to comfort them. And I thought the dead who were already dead more fortunate than the living who are still alive. But better than both is he who has not yet been, and has not seen the evil deeds that are under the sun. Then I saw that all toil and all skill in work come from a man's envy of his neighbor. This also is vanity, and a striving after wind. The fool folds his hands and eats his own flesh. Better is a handful of quietness than 2 hands full of toil and a striving after wind. Again, I saw vanity under the sun. One person who has one person who has no other, either son or brother, yet there is no end to all his toil, and his eyes are never satisfied with riches, so that he never asks, "For whom am I toiling and depriving myself of pleasure?" This also is vanity and an unhappy business. Here we go. Oh my gosh, this is so cool. 2 are better than 1, because they have a good reward for their toil. If they fall, one will lift up his fellow. But woe to him who is alone when he falls, and has not another to lift him up. Again, if 2 lie together, they keep warm. But how can one keep warm alone? And though a man might prevail against one who is alone, 2 will withstand him. A threefold cord is not quickly broken. Better was a poor and wise youth than an old and foolish king who no longer knew how to take advice. For he went from prison to the throne, though in his own kingdom he had been born poor. I saw all the living who move about under the sun, along with that youth who was to stand in the king's place. There was no end of all the people, all of whom he led. Yet those who came later will not rejoice in him. Surely this also is a vanity and a striving after the wind. Oh man. Oh, that's so cool. We could do a whole stream and I could just talk about that those few chapters or those few verses are wow. Um so again, yeah. I think this is another thing that people resonate with. There's this idea of like there's so much oppression under the sun. People, abusing power, abusing authority to put others down, to oppress them, to inflict bad things upon them just because they can. If I'm stronger than you and I want to do bad things to you're not going to stop me because I'm stronger than you. And so like there's a lot of that happens in the world. Um it doesn't seem right. It's not right. These people who are doing good are having such bad things done to them just because by the evil people because the evil people are apparently more successful and powerful than them. That doesn't seem right. Uh, but none of that goes unnoticed. Again, a lot of people when they're trying to work hard, they're trying to accomplish things. There are many instances where maybe their motivations aren't pure. Maybe they're trying to outdo someone. They're thinking, "Oh, that guy's successful. Well, I don't like him, so I need to be more successful than him." And it's like they're being driven by the wrong motivations, and so that happens a lot. These people they're hurting themselves. They're killing themselves. They're doing terrible things. They don't realize it. Um, and so we'll come back to this. Was there anything beyond that? No, we can do this now. This right here, verses 9 through 12. Oh, this is so cool. Um, Again, this talks about how there's a lot of value in doing things together. If I'm just on my own trying to do stuff, sure I can get to a certain extent. I can accomplish a certain amount. But if I have another person standing alongside me, how much more successful will we be? How much more will we be able to accomplish? Um, and again, 3 is even better. Um, God was speaking to me once. He was taking me through a season, talking to me about marriage and explaining that to me. I'm not married, but God was explaining marriage to me at one point, and I remember he told me to read Ecclesiastes 4, verses 9 through 12, and I was like, I don't know what those verses are. That's really random, but sure, I'll read it. And so, during my break at work, I read Ecclesiastes 4, verses 9 through 12, and it was these, and I was like, that's crazy, because I felt God explaining to me that the two represent a husband and a wife who are joined together in marriage, which is, in marriage we see that two become, the Bible says two become one flesh, and so you are joined together as one, and so that's reflective of a marriage. And then the threefold cord is those two then joined further with God, husband, wife, and God, all as one entity spiritually. So it's like that's a beautiful thing. And so if you're married, that's awesome, and I hope that, ideally there's so much that God wants to do with that. But even if you're not married, this doesn't mean you have to go out and get married. This can be with anyone. Like the main core of this is just that there's so much value in not trying to do everything alone. There's a time to be alone, sure, but there's also times where you can't do everything by yourself, and it's good to rely on others. Not that they would do all the work, but that together you would both give it your all, so that collectively you can do way more. And so there's a lot of value in that. Ecclesiastes 5, fear God. Guard your steps when you go to the house of God. To draw near to listen, to draw near to listen is better than to offer the sacrifice of fools, for they do not know that they are doing evil. Be not rash with your mouth, nor let your heart be hasty to utter a word before God. For God is in heaven, and you are on earth. Therefore let your words be few. For a dream comes with much business, much busyness, and a fool's voice with many words. When you vow a vow to God, do not delay paying it, for he has no pleasure in fools. Pay what you vow. It is better that you should not vow than that you should vow and not pay. Let not your mouth lead you into sin, and do not say before the messenger that it was a mistake. Why should God be angry at your voice and destroy the work of your hands? For when dreams increase and words grow many, there is vanity. But God is the one you must fear, the vanity of wealth and honor. If you see in a province the oppression of the poor and the violation of justice and unrighteousness, do not be amazed at the matter, for the high official is watching by a higher, and there are, or, wait, for the high official is watched by a higher, and there are yet higher ones over them. But this is gain for a land in every way, a king committed to cultivated fields. He who loves money will not be satisfied with money, nor he who loves wealth with his income. This also is vanity. When goods increase, they increase who eat them, and what advantage has their owner but to see them with his eyes? Sweet is the sleep of a laborer, whether he eats little or much, but the full stomach of the rich will not let him sleep. There is a grievous evil that I have seen under the sun. Riches were kept by their owner to his hurt, and those riches were lost in a bad venture. And he is father of a son, but he has nothing in his hand. As he came from his mother's womb, he shall go again, naked as he came, and shall take nothing for his toil, that he may carry away in his hand. This also is a grievous evil. Just as he came, so shall he go. And what gain is there to him who toils who toils for the wind? Moreover, all his days he eats in darkness, in much vexation, and sickness, and anger. Behold, what I have seen to be good and fitting is to eat and drink and find enjoyment in all the toil with which one toils under the sun, and the few days of his life that God has given him, for this is his lot. Everyone also to whom God has given wealth and possessions and power to enjoy them, and to accept his lot, and rejoice in his toil, this is the gift of God. For he will not much remember the days of his life, because God keeps him occupied with joy in his heart. Again, your life, enjoy the small things, but ultimately, focus on the big picture. Don't let the little things trip you up or bother you, because at the end of the day, 70 years from now, when we're all probably senile and old, and we're just sitting there reflecting on our lives, are you going to be thinking to yourself, gosh, I'm so upset that that bad thing happened on that day 23 or 50 or 60 years ago? No, you're going to look back on the big picture. You're going to think more generally. And so, exactly, no, yes, skunk, yeah. See, and so, if we focus on all the little things, those aren't the things that are going to last. Focus on the the larger scope. Try to see things more so from God's perspective. Not that we can fully understand that, but you know, when we cross eternity and everything in Scripture is fulfilled and God is here reigning on earth and we're there with Him, is He gonna, are we gonna be thinking to ourselves, man, I can't believe I stubbed my toe that day, or I can't believe that guy cut me off in traffic, or, you know, we're not. We're gonna be thinking about, okay, this is the life I lived. There were good times and there were bad times, but there's gonna be some ultimate takeaway that we get from that. Um, I'm gonna be so old. I'm gonna be thinking about banana pudding on Tuesday nights if I'm put in a nursing home. And see, that sounds awesome, but you're not gonna be remembering that one time some dude flipped you the bird at McDonald's. I don't know if that happens. Maybe people do that. Hopefully not. But like that's not gonna be what you're thinking about. Or you're not gonna be thinking about that one time a dude stole $5 from you. Like no, probably. It does happen? Oh no. That's crazy. Uh guys, America's a crazy place. Be careful. But don't give him the bird back. That's not better. But like you're not gonna be thinking about that 80 years from now. You're right. You're gonna be thinking. You're not gonna remember that, right? You're gonna remember your banana pudding, I guess. But you're gonna be thinking about the sort of life you lived and the things you did more broadly. And so don't focus on the little details too much. Not to say you neglect them. You know, a lot of little things make up a big thing, but try to keep that in mind. Don't only focus on the small stuff, but remember why the small stuff matters to begin with. Also, you hear it's talking about if you make a vow, do not delay paying it. It's better that if you're not going to be able to keep your word, it's better not to promise it to begin with. Like say I have, um, say 15 years from now, I've got a wife and kids, and I tell my kids, hey, we're going to go to Disney this weekend. We're going to go to Disney World. And that sounds so great. They really, they had been really struggling a lot. And so it was great for me to tell them that. But then if we end up not being able to go, now they had their hopes up. They were really excited. And I've crushed them. I've made them sad. And so it would have been better if I just never said anything at all. If you can't keep your word, don't make a promise. Don't vow anything. Don't say you're going to do it if you know you can't do it, or if you don't know that you could. Like, be careful. Um, Likewise, sometimes we want to talk a lot because if we talk a lot, then generally I think the idea is, oh, that guy's talking so much, he must know a lot. Well, no, not always. For instance, I can pull stuff out of nowhere. I could ramble on for 45 minutes about lasagna, probably. That doesn't make me smart. That probably means I like lasagna. Um, and so sometimes there is wisdom in staying silent. Knowing when to talk and when to keep quiet. Or like, the sacrifices of fools. Listening, drawing near to listen is better than the sacrifice of fools. Those people are like, oh, look, I'm sacrificing to God. I'm such a good person. Um, when really, in their hearts, they might be doing terrible things in secret. They might be terrible people in private. But on the outside, it looks great. But then you have someone who is super poor. They can't afford to bring a sacrifice. But simply by drawing near to listen, to gain wisdom, to learn, that person is doing something far more valuable than the evil person who's offering a sacrifice just for looks or appearances. And so, again, reflect on the heart. Outward actions are one thing. They can be good. They can reflect what's going on in your heart. But ultimately, that's not always the case. And so, don't just focus on what's outward and what you immediately see, because that's not always all there is. Ecclesiastes 6, I think with this one we're going to be halfway through. Wow. There is an evil that I have seen under the sun, and it lies heavy on mankind. A man to whom God gives wealth, possessions, and honor, so that he lacks nothing of all that he desires, yet God does not give him power to enjoy them, but a stranger enjoys them. This is vanity. It is a grievous evil. If a man fathers 100 children and lives many years, so that the days of his years are many, but his soul is not satisfied with life's good things, and he also has no burial, I say that a stillborn child is better off than he. For it comes in vanity and goes in darkness, and in darkness its name is covered. Moreover, it has not seen the sun or known anything, yet it finds rest rather than he. Even though he should live 1,000 years twice over, yet enjoy no good, do not all go to one place? All the toil of a man is for his mouth, yet his appetite is not satisfied. For what advantage has the wise man over the fool? And what does the poor man have who knows how to conduct himself before the living? Better is the sight of the eyes than the wandering of the appetite. This also is vanity and a striving after wind. Whatever has come to be has already been named, and it is known what man is, and that he is not able to dispute with one stronger than he. The more words, the more vanity. And what is the advantage to man? For who knows what is good for man while he lives the few days of his vain life, which he passes like a shadow? For who can tell man what will be after him under the sun? Again, there's this idea that we don't know what's going to come. We don't know what's going to happen after us. And so we might work super hard for something. Say, again, another example. Say somehow I start like a really cool company and I make a lot of money. Um, but then before I get to use any of it, I die and someone inherits everything I owned. Well, I might have been the one that worked really hard. Uh, but then I died, and so some other dude in the company got all the stuff, and now he gets to enjoy the things that I worked for, and I never got to have any of it. That would stink. But again, if my whole value was built around wealth and enjoying that and what I could do with that, then I've missed the bigger picture, and so again, that's not where we should be looking. And then also the idea of like that would suck. It would, yeah. And so like also he talks about the idea of like a stillborn child is better off than a guy who lives 1,000 years and all he does is suffer and he's miserable because at the same you know ultimately when that baby dies at birth and when this man dies at 1,000 years old who's had a terrible life, they're both going to the same place. They're and so it's like why did he suffer so like that? Yeah, that's miserable for him. The baby had it better because the baby sure didn't live a life, but through that it didn't suffer like he did. That's not me advocating for killing your baby. Don't do that. That's probably not good. Um, it's definitely not good. But that is to say, if you're only focusing on suffering, if you're not allowing yourself to see past the suffering, to see the purpose behind it, then you are just going to live a miserable life. And there's no bad killing babies. Yes, it is bad. And so if you can't see past the immediate pain to try to understand the why or to try to learn or grow from it, then you are miserable just for the sake of being miserable. And it would be better to be dead. But that's not the right answer. Because if that's what you've decided for yourself, then you've missed the fact that there is something that you can gain from this. There is something to learn. There is a better future that you can pursue for yourself. God wants to give it to you. If you'll look for it, if you'll try to seek it, He'll give it to you. If you show that you don't want it, that you don't want to get better, well, He's not going to make you get better. If you want to be miserable, if you want to stay where you are, He'll let you do that. He'd rather you didn't. He'd rather you seek the better alternatives. But if we don't want that for ourselves, He's not going to make us want it. And so if we miss that, yeah, we can live a miserable life. But then if we have that perspective of things can get better, there's things I can gain from these to make me stronger, to make me better, then even if a lot of bad stuff happens, which it can, then it still means we didn't have to have a miserable life. Our life can still be good. I tell people I don't know the last time I had a bad day. I've had days where a lot of bad things happen. But at the end of the day, I'll reflect on all the things that were good, even the small things, and I'll realize, I'm alive. I didn't die. Everything I needed was here. I was taken care of. It's still ultimately not a bad day. And even if things happen that were tough, I can figure out, all right, why might this have happened? What can I do to get better? Um, what can I learn from this? And then there's value even in the bad situations. And so I think that's a big thing that we can get as well. Ecclesiastes 7 then says, the contrast of wisdom and folly. A good name is better than precious ointment, and the day of death than the day of birth. It is better to go to the house of mourning than to go to the house of feasting, for this is the end of all mankind, and the living will lay it to heart. Sorrow is better than laughter, for by sadness of face the heart is made glad. The heart of the wise is in the house of mourning, but the heart of fools is in the house of mirth. It is better for a man to hear the rebuke of the wise than to hear the song of fools. For as the crackling of thorns under a pot, so is the laughter of the fools. This also is vanity. Surely oppression drives the wise into madness, and a bribe corrupts the heart. Better is the end of a thing than its beginning, and the patient in spirit is better than the proud in spirit. Be not quick in your spirit to become angry, for anger lodges in the heart of fools. Say not, why were the former days better than these? For it is not from wisdom that you ask this. Wisdom is good with an inheritance, an advantage to those who see the sun. For the protection of wisdom is like the protection of money, and the advantage of knowledge is that wisdom preserves the life of him who has it. Consider the work of God. Who can make straight what he has made crooked? In the day of prosperity be joyful, and in the day of adversity consider. God has made the one as well as the other, so that man may not find out anything that will be after him. In my vain life I have seen everything. There is a righteous man who perishes in his righteousness, and there is a wicked man who prolongs his life in his evil doing. Be not overly righteous, do not make yourself too wise. Why should you destroy yourself? Be not overly wicked, neither be a fool. Why should you die before your time? It is good that you should take hold of this, and from that withhold not your hand, for the one who fears God shall come out from both of them. Wisdom gives strength to the wise man more than 10 rulers who are in a city. Surely there is not a righteous man on earth who does good and never sins. Do not take to heart all the things that people say, lest you hear your servant cursing you. Your heart knows that many times you yourself have cursed others. All this I have tested by wisdom. I said, I will be wise, but it was far from me. That which has been is far off, and deep, very deep. Who can find it out? I turned my heart to know and to search out and to seek wisdom in the scheme of things, and to know the wickedness of folly and the foolishness that is madness. And I find something more bitter than death. The woman whose heart is snares and nets, and whose hands are fetters. He who pleases God escapes her, but the sinner is taken by her. Behold, this is what I found, says the preacher, while adding one thing to another to find the scheme of things, which my soul has sought repeatedly, but I have not found. One man among 1,000 I found, but a woman among all these I have not found. See, this alone I found, that God made man upright, but they have sought out many schemes. Again, there's so much. I love this book. It's not the lightest in tone, but there's so much that we can talk about here. I think one of the things that really sticks out to me is the idea of not just trying to seek out people who are happy and enjoying themselves, but finding value in surrounding yourself also with the people who are struggling, who are mourning. If they're mourning a bad situation, they understand what's going on, and there's wisdom there. It's good to be able to comfort them and to strengthen them and to stand by them in these things. That's wonderful. And that also, it's good to rejoice. There's not a problem in celebrating things. But a lot of times, right here, for instance, in verse 6, it says, as the crackling of thorns under a pot, so is the laughter of fools. This also is vanity. A lot of times, people celebrate to try to ignore problems. Think of people who drink too much, perhaps. A lot of times, when they're drinking too much and they're in that state, they may feel like things are great. They may be super happy. But they're doing this to hide from problems. People seek pleasure to ignore and avoid their problems rather than accepting their problems for what they are and trying to overcome them. It's so, it's just like the thorns under a pot. It's going to burn away. It's not going to last. And then what are you left with? The problem's still there. We didn't address it. And so there's no wisdom in just trying to escape your problems and trying to push them aside and say, oh, I don't have to let it be an issue. If there's an issue there, it's better to face it than to try to bring about temporary joy and ignore it. Because eventually you're going to have to face it. And so there's a time to be sad. If something's happened, don't try to run from it. Face it. If it's sad, then let it be sad. But don't try to ignore what is. If you need to be sad, again, I think of whichever chapter it was where we were talking about, there's a time for all these things. There's a time to mourn, and there's a time to dance. A time to weep and a time to laugh. And so there's a time for each one. And so we can't act like one is bad and the other is good. No, there's good to be found in both of them. And so I think that's really important. And then in Ecclesiastes 7, we have the contrast of wisdom and folly. Oh, no, we just read this, right? Yeah, we're on 8 now? Okay, yep, we're on 8. Keep the king's command. Who is like the wise? And who knows the interpretation of a thing? A man's wisdom makes his face shine, and the hardness of his face is changed. I say, keep the king's command, because of God's oath to him. Be not hasty to go from his presence. Do not take your stand in an evil cause, for he does whatever he pleases. For the word of the king is supreme, and who may say to him, what are you doing? Whoever keeps the command will know no evil thing, and the wise heart will know the proper time and the just way. For there is a time and a way for everything, although man's trouble lies heavy on him. For he does not know what is to be, for who can tell him how it will be? No man has power to retain the spirit, or power over the day of death. There is no discharge from war, nor will wickedness deliver those who are given to it. All this I observed while applying my heart to all that is done under the sun. When man had power over man to his hurt, those who fear God will do well. When I saw the wicked buried, they used to go in and out of the holy place, and were praised in the city where they had done such things. This also is vanity, because the sentence against an evil deed is not executed speedily, but the heart of children of man is fully set to do evil. Though a sinner does a hundred times, or though a sinner does evil 100 times and prolongs his life, yet I know that it will be well with those who fear God, because they fear before him. But it will not be well with the wicked, neither will he prolong his days like a shadow, because he does not fear before God. Man cannot know God's ways. There is a vanity that takes place on earth, that there are righteous people to whom it happens according to the deeds of the wicked, and there are wicked people to whom it happens according to the deeds of the righteous. I said that this also is vanity. I commend them, and I commend joy for man, I commend joy, for man has nothing better under the sun to do but to eat and drink and be joyful, for this will go with him in his toil through the days of his life that God has given him under the sun. When I applied my heart to know wisdom, and to see the business that is done on earth, now how neither day nor night do one's eyes see sleep, then I saw all the work of God, that man cannot find out the work that is done under the sun. However much man may seek in toiling, he will not find it out. Even though a man or a wise man claims to know, he cannot find it out. So again, um, yeah, don't associate with evil. Evil, it might seem all right if I lie to this guy, or if I steal this thing, or if I do whatever the other bad thing is. It'll be good for me. It'll be better for me. I can get rich. I can get a higher position. I can become more powerful. I can get, I don't know, whatever you're going after that you shouldn't be. It's easy to say, all right, I'm gonna have a good life if I do these bad things. Look at all these corrupt people who are like powerful and rich and they have all these things, and it's, oh, they're so happy. But ultimately, what's that gonna add to them? Again, the only thing they've gained, the only things they've gained are the things that don't last. They might have an awesome time here on Earth, but as soon as that time's up, they can't bring any of that with them. And if they were living wicked, evil lives, well, the scripture tells us what comes for those people. Eventually, they will face judgment. They will be cast away from God into hell, where there's darkness and gnashing of teeth, and everyone's miserable. And so it's like, sure, they might have had a great life on earth. They might have looked great, at least. But ultimately, they didn't get anything from it. All of it's gone. Whereas, if you if you stay by righteousness, and if you commit yourself to doing good, even when it's not going to get you anything, look at what you're ultimately going to gain for that. Don't be motivated by rewards solely, but like the gain from doing good ultimately is God will commend you. God will say, "You've lived your life according to what I have called. You have followed me. Well done, my good and faithful servant." And then you'll inherit eternal life with God. You'll be with Him forever. And like, I don't think I have to spell it out too in depth, but I think that's a bit better. I think that's considerably better. And so don't look for the temporary. I think of like short term versus long term reward almost. Um, for instance, crows are really smart animals, and crows are really good at this. Scientists have tested them. They can make tools, which is cool. But then also they'll do tests where like a crow can walk over to like one spot of the table, say it's on the left side, and he can just eat a treat that's kind of good, or he can work and he could like solve a puzzle and do a thing, and he knows it's going to take time, but if he does the puzzle, he gets a better treat. And so the crows even understand that, all right, it's better for me to wait and to do the longer thing, even though it requires more of me and it's not as immediately gratifying. Because if I stick through this and if I go with the longer way, ultimately my reward is better. Crows understand this. I don't think we as people understand this very often, myself included at times. There are times where I even struggle with that. Um, but like on the bigger scale, on the biggest scale of our lives and what comes after them, I think that's especially important to understand. So hopefully, hopefully that makes some sense, because I hope that's one that everyone gets. Again, if you guys have any points that you'd like to bring up, I'd love to hear them. If there's any questions, I don't have all the answers. I can't promise that. I wouldn't promise that. I'd be terrified to say that. Um, but I could try, and if maybe we can look stuff up. We can learn together. Um, but if anyone's ever got anything, please feel free to contribute. I would love to hear from you guys. But in the meantime, we've got Ecclesiastes 9, which says, "Death comes to all, and all this I laid to heart, examining it all, how the righteous and the wise and their deeds are in the hand of God. Whether it is love or hate, man does not know. Both are before him. It is the same for all, since the same event happens to the righteous and the wicked, to the good and the evil, to the clean and the unclean, to him who sacrifices and him who does not sacrifice. As the good one is, so is the sinner, and he who swears is as he who shuns an oath. This is an evil in all that is done under the sun, that the same events happen to all. Also, the hearts of the children of man are full of evil, and madness is in their hearts while they live, and after that they go to the dead. But he who is joined with all the living has hope, for a living dog is better than a dead lion. For the living know that they will die, but the dead know nothing, and they have no more reward, for the memory of them is forgotten. Their love, and their hate, and their envy have already perished, and forever they have no more share in all that is done under the sun. Enjoy life with the one you love. Go, eat your bread with joy, and drink your wine with a merry heart, for God has already approved what you do. Let your garments be always white. Let not oil be lacking on your head. Enjoy life with the wife whom you love, all the days of your vain life that he has given you under the sun, because that is your portion in life, and in your toil at which you toil under the sun. Whatever your hand finds to do, do it with your might, for there is no work or thought or knowledge or wisdom in Sheol to which you are going. Again, or wisdom better than folly. Again I saw that under the sun, the race is not to the swift, nor the battle to the strong, nor the bread to the wise, nor riches to the intelligent, nor favor to those with knowledge, but time and chance happen to them all. For man does not know his time. Like fish that are taken in an evil net, and like birds that are caught in a snare, so the children of man are snared at an evil time, when it suddenly falls upon them. I have also seen this example of wisdom under the sun, and it seemed great to me. There was a little city with few men in it, and a great king came against it and besieged it, building great siege works against it. But there was found in it a poor, wise man, and he by his wisdom delivered the city. Yet no one remembered that poor man. But I say that wisdom is better than might, though the poor man's wisdom is despised, and his words are not heard. The words of the wise, heard in quiet, are better than the shouting of a ruler among fools. Wisdom is better than weapons of war, but one sinner destroys much good. And there's a few things here. I hope I remember them all. The first one, since we're here, I'll start with, uh, yeah, wisdom obviously is much better than foolishness. If I'm going to think of a fight, uh, I've practiced martial arts in the past, and I suppose I still do. And so that's like saying I I know what I'm doing to an extent. I'm not Chuck Norris or Bruce Lee, um, but I've got some familiarity with how to fight, how to use different things. And so, say that's awesome. Well, thank you. um, but that's like say some dude came up to me. I know I'm not crazy in a fight. I know I'm not like super OP or anything. Knowing fighting styles is cool. You can do it. You can do it too. I encourage it. It's awesome. It's great for you. Um, say some guy who has like the biggest ego in the world comes up to me and he's convinced himself he's the greatest fighter in the world. Um, and he's so confident he's gonna win. So even though he has all that confidence, even though he sounds so full of it, so ready, and people may look at him and say, "Oh yeah, this guy surely he knows what he's doing. Look at him. Look at how prepared he is." Well, even though I'm not a super impressive fighter, because I've practiced a little bit, because I have skill, not like much skill, but because I've got some familiarity, I'm comparing this to wisdom ultimately. I may not boast, but I'll still what little I do have is worth far more than the empty confidence of the man who has nothing other than an ego and pride. And I'd probably beat that dude. Um, this we could put you in here too, Skunk. This story could be about you. It doesn't have to be me. That's just like a personal example I can think of. But like there are a lot of instances where that's true. Um, Again, I'm not impressive. I promise. I have a different idea though. Got good, understandable way to never lose. Read the capital words or read the capital letters. Oh, ha 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 ha. The capital letters were for good, understandable, and never. Funny. Read between the lines. I can't say that one on Twitch probably, but that's funny. But like again, someone who thinks he has everything but has nothing ultimately is not going to come out on top against someone who is aware of where they stand with God, and who relies on what God has given them. Oh, what is? Oh, yes. Oh, you can say that on Twitch. That's not. That's cool. Um, I think there's also this is kind of sad, but it's true. The poor man's wisdom is despised and his words are not heard. Your wisdom is better than mine, but the poor man's wisdom is despised and his words are not heard. Yeah, a lot of times, like say some random homeless person goes to like some fancy government building, and this homeless person who's like all raggedy and in torn clothes and stuff and super dirty says to the politicians the wisest, most powerful words that have ever been spoken. Well, because of in their minds who he is and who they are, who they've decided he is for themselves and who they've decided they are for themselves, they're probably going to reject everything he says. Nothing's going to stick. They're not going to care about him. What does this guy know? They're so accomplished and pompous and whatever. Who cares about what he says? He doesn't know anything. He's homeless. He's dirty. He's whatever. But really, he has more than any of them. His wisdom is worth more than anything they've got. And so, yeah, that is an unfortunate thing. Um, Also, I want to clarify this. Uh, this sounds like a verse that you could totally take out of context if you're not careful. Go, eat your bread with joy and drink your wine with a merry heart, for God has already approved what you do. Oh no. I could see how people these days would try to twist it and see, look, God just wants you to be happy. Do whatever makes you happy. It's great. Uh, sure, it sounds like that if you take it out of context and just read verse 7, maybe. But the important thing is then verse 8. I don't think you could do verse 7 without verse 8. Verse 8 is so essential here. Verse 8 says, let your garments be always white. Let not oil be lacking on your head. And what this symbolizes is white garments represent purity. And so, yes, enjoy what you're doing. For God's, take joy in this. Appreciate these things, enjoy them. For God's approved what you're doing. But let your garments be always white. Remain pure. So don't just go off, get drunk, sleep around, do substances, other bad things, but remain pure in your joy, even in your joy. Let not oil be lacking on your head. Uh, Oil on your head represents like an anointing. And so people that have been set aside by God to serve him often would have their heads anointed with oil. Even today, that's still done. Um, and so, as you're enjoying life, as you're celebrating and being married, having fun, stay pure and remember that you have been called to be God's. God has called you to be His, and so do not let yourself wander away from the identity that He has called you to walk in. And so, I think that's an important thing. Don't just take verse 7 and say, "Yep, I'm living this now," because that might not be good. Remember verse 8, because verse 8 is also really important. Um, Also, I love all the days of your vain life. That's wow. That's blunt. I don't know. Um, Whatever your hands finds to do, do it with your might, for there is no work or knowledge, or wisdom in Sheol to which you're going. Yeah, whatever you do, do it to the utmost. Give it your all. Don't do things halfway. Do it as best you can. Sheol in Jewish theology is the place where Jewish tradition before Jesus. So in Christianity, obviously, we believe that Jesus will judge us, and the righteous, those who follow Jesus will go to heaven. Those who reject Jesus will go to hell. Uh, Jews before Jesus and even after had this idea of a place called Sheol, where after you die, everyone who dies goes to this place of Sheol, and it's kind of just like you're sleeping. It's like an afterlife, almost like a waiting room until the final resurrection that Jews wait for, where they would say, on the day of the final resurrection, everyone will be brought up, then judgment will take place. And so that's what Sheol is. But, like, again, with that understanding of when you die, you're just going to go there and you're not going to do anything, it's like, um, nothing you do is going to matter there. And so while you're here on Earth, give it your all. Because you're not going to be able to take any of that with you. You're not going to be able to do any of that there. And so while you're able to do these things, actually give it effort. Take joy and pleasure in your work and do it sincerely and joyfully. And so there's a lot of that. It also, a living dog is better than a dead lion. I'm glad I scrolled up. I wanted to mention that one. Isn't that so cool? Like, that's so true. A lion and a dog in isolation. I think we would all agree the lion's probably stronger than the dog. The lion's probably gonna beat the dog, but the lion's dead and the dog's alive. Gosh, that dog's got it way better than the lion. And so like even among men, you're not to say that it's good that people are dead. No, um, don't celebrate that. But like a poor person who's alive is capable of doing far more than a rich, powerful person who is dead. And so you appreciate the circumstances that you have. Your circumstances might not be great, they might not be perfect. You might not be a rich man, but you are alive, and there's still stuff that you can do in this life. And so take advantage of that. Do whatever God would allow you to do. Make the most of it. Again, what is this? Oh my. OMG, look at my new phone, Stacy. It can call from all over the world. Nothing has better connection. Moses standing next to a burning bush with such great connection to God himself had to speak on it to him. Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, exactly. Um, be happy with what God gives. Don't strive after things that aren't for you to have. Not to say that you can't be ambitious. Ambition is good. Just make sure it's after the right things. Then Ecclesiastes 10 says, "Dead flies make the perfumer's ointment give off a stench, so a little folly outweighs wisdom and honor. A wise man's heart inclines him to the right, but a fool's heart to the left. Even when the fool walks on the road, he lacks sense, and he says to everyone that he is a fool. If the anger of the ruler rises against you, do not leave your place, for calmness will lay great offenses to rest. There is an evil that I have seen under the sun, as it were an error proceeding from the ruler. Folly is set in many high places, and the rich sit in a low place. I have seen slaves on horses, and princes walking on the ground like elves. He who digs a pit will fall into it, and a serpent will bite him who breaks through a wall. He who quarries stones is hurt by them, and he who splits logs is endangered by them. If the iron is blunt, and one does not sharpen the edge, he must use more strength, but wisdom helps one to succeed. If the serpent bites before it is charmed, there is no advantage to the charmer. The words of a wise man's mouth with him favor, but the lips of a fool consume him. The beginning of the words of his mouth is foolishness, and the end of his talk is evil madness. A fool multiplies words, though no man knows what it is to be, and who can tell him what will be after him? The toil of a fool wearies him, for he does not know the way to the city. Woe to you, O land, when your king is a child, and your princes feast in the morning. Happy are you, O land, when your king is the son of nobility, and your princes feast at the proper time, for strength and not for drunkenness. Through sloth the roof sinks in, and through indolence the house leaks. Bread is made for laughter, and wine gladdens life, and money answers everything. Even in your thoughts do not curse the king, nor in your bedroom curse the rich, for a bird of the air will carry your voice, or some winged creature tell the matter." Okay, I saw several things come up while I was reading, but they disappeared. Interesting. Yeah, again, there's a lot here. Uh-oh. Oh, here we go. What is... Very nice sailboat, but that thing couldn't hold a party of three if you wanted. This pontoon here could hold an elephant if it wanted. No, not a great story. Mine can hold two. Heck, can yours hold a giraffe or two of every animal? Yeah, Phyllis, your silly pontoon is nothing compared to my ark. Oh no. Yeah. Um. Oh, right here. Yeah. Dead flies make the perfumer's ointment give off a stench, so a little folly outweighs wisdom and honor. And this is another thing. You They say that no one's going to remember the good things you do. You're going to be remembered for the bad things way more easily than you will the good. You could do 10 good things, but if you mess up once, that's what people are going to know you for. And so, if you want to commit yourself to doing good, if you want to commit yourself to a life of wisdom, again, it's got to be like, you've got to go at it with your all. It's not to say we're going to be perfect. I wouldn't tell anyone you have to be perfect. I can't be perfect. I'm not. Um, but like, be sincere about it. You've got to really try, because if you're going to go after this, you have to, you can't just settle for, well, how do you describe this? You can't be happy with like, I don't know how. English is difficult. I don't know. Um, but like, don't be content with just messing up over and over again and say, "Oh, it's all right." Like, try. Actually, try. Don't just try a little bit and then say, "When I mess up, it's okay." No, try. If you do mess up, you don't beat yourself up over it. But don't try to just do half, like, don't give it half your effort when you can give it more, because then those mistakes, if they're consistent enough, that's going to stick out. And so you try to learn, try to overcome. If you do mess up, again, it's not the end of the world, but don't just say it's all right that I messed up. No, address the issue and try to overcome it. Try to learn from it and grow. Again, what is it? Was there was something else I want to say? Mm, oh yeah, again, there's the idea of you don't know what's going to come after you. The world will go on. If you die, you hopefully not soon, but when we all die, because it's inevitable, the world's not going to end. Most likely, there will be people here after us probably, and so we can't control what's going to happen then. We don't know what's going to happen then, and so don't worry so much about that. Worry about you live in the present moment. Have ambitions for the future, sure, but don't be so ruled by the idea of things that are to come that you miss what's immediately before you. Focus on the present, give it all that you can. Make now the best now that it can be. Make today the best today that it can be, so that tomorrow is ready. But don't focus so much on tomorrow that you miss today. There's something like that, perhaps. Now, Ecclesiastes 11, we're almost there. That's crazy. Cast your bread upon the waters. Cast your bread upon the waters, for you will find it after many days. Give a portion to 7, or even to 8, for you know not what disaster may happen on earth. If the clouds are full of rain, they empty themselves on the earth, and if a tree falls to the south or to the north, in the place where the tree falls, there it will lie. He who observes the wind will not sow, and he who regards the clouds will not reap. As you do not know the way the Spirit comes to the bones in the womb of a woman with child, so you do not know the work of God who makes everything. In the morning sow your seed, and at evening withhold your hand, for you do not know which will prosper, this or that, or whether both alike will be good. Light is sweet, and it is pleasant for the eyes to see the sun. So if a person lives many years, let him rejoice in them all. But let him remember that the days of darkness will be many. All that comes is vanity. Rejoice, O young man, in your youth, and let your heart cheer you in the days of your youth. Walk in the ways of your heart, in the sight of your eyes. But know that for all these things God will bring you into judgment. Remove vexation from your heart, and put away pain from your body, for youth and the dawn of life are vanity. Oh no, what is this one? I see screaming? Or is it laughing? So we're finding hydrophobic materials that can be used to walk in water. Shoemakers, ha. We made water walking shoes. Silly, we beat you in a race. Jesus sitting in the corner eating popcorn and drinking soda in a movie chair with 3D glasses watching them fight. This is so funny. It's like they don't even know I did it first. Jesus did do that. That was pretty cool. We read that last week. Yes. Um, yes. Again, uh, this kind of reminds me of which chapter was it where we were talking about 7 and 8? I think it was 9. Yeah. Go eat your bread with joy and drink your wine with a merry heart, for God has already approved what you do. But then we talked about how the important part of that is also remembering. Don't just do anything for pleasure. That can be bad. As you're doing these things, let your garments always be white and remain pure, and let not oil be lacking on your head, which again represents anointment and an identity that God has called us to have in Him. And so, again, down here, rejoice, O man, in your youth, and let your heart cheer you in the days of your youth. Walk in the ways of your heart in the sight of your eyes. But know that for all these things God will bring you into judgment. Again, you enjoy what God has given you. You make the most of life. Have fun. Enjoy yourself. Like there's plenty to celebrate and be joyful of in life. But make sure you're celebrating the right things. Make sure you're indulging in the right things. Because yes, you might be enjoying things now, but ultimately God will bring you into judgment, for better or for worse. Judgment's not always bad. A judgment can be good. It's just like a judgment is a verdict reached by a person in authority. And so if God brings a good judgment, then that means you're going to be rewarded. You'll be blessed. And so it's not always bad. But know that whatever you're engaging in, whatever you're allowing to rule your life, whatever you're dedicating yourself to, it will be judged one way or the other. And so you keep that in mind. Are the things I'm living for worth living for? Are these things worth my eternity? Are these things that God would approve of? Are these things going to last, or are these like a lot of things we've read so far where it's here today, but it's going to be gone tomorrow? No one's going to remember these things. None of them ultimately matter. And so again, I think it's very important to focus on that eternal perspective, even in the moment, in the minute by minute, days and moments of our lives. Um, there anything else? I think this is interesting. Nothing crazy or deep, I don't think. Well, not that I'm picking up immediately. Wait, what was that? Oh, wait, these are all notes? I didn't know that. That's so cool. Um, as you do not know the way the spirit comes to the bones in the womb of a woman with child. um, oh, I read that. I was just thinking, I never thought about bones growing in a person. Bones are, I don't know, bones aren't rocks, but I was thinking bones. I was like, oh, that is true. Like bones just grow inside you. Not biblical, not deep. I was just thinking about bones growing inside of a baby. I was like, that's crazy. Uh, anyway, bones are neat. That's like the least valuable thing you'll get from this Bible study. Um, but I don't know. It was a random thought I had. I share it. Remember your creator in your youth. Oh, this is big. That sounds good already. Remember also your creator in the days of your youth, before the evil days come and the years draw near, of which you will say, I have no pleasure in them. Before the sun and the light and the moon and the stars are darkened, and the clouds return after the rain, and the day when the keepers of the house tremble, and the strong men are bent, and the grinders cease because they are few, and those who look through the windows are dimmed, and the doors on the street are shut, when the sound of the grinding is low, and the one rises up at the sound of a bird, and all the daughters of song are brought low. They are afraid also of what is high, and terrors are in the way. The almond tree blossoms, the grasshopper drags itself along, and desire fails, because man is going to his eternal home, and the mourners go about the streets, before the silver cord is snapped, or the golden bowl is broken, or the pitcher is shattered at the fountain, or before the wheel is broken at the cistern, and the dust returns to the earth as it was, and the spirit returns to God who gave it. Vanity of vanities, says the preacher. All is vanity. Fear God and keep his commandments. Besides being wise, the preacher also taught the people knowledge, weighing and studying and arranging many proverbs with great care. The preacher sought to find words of delight, and uprightly he wrote words of truth. The words of the wise are like goads, and like nails firmly fixed are the collected sayings. They are given by one shepherd. My son, beware of anything beyond these. Of making many books there is no end, and much study is a weariness of the flesh. The end of the matter, all has been heard. Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. For God will bring every deed into judgment, with every secret thing, whether good or evil. Another, I see Olive Garden, Jesus, and Death Skeleton. What? Skunk, are you okay? Yeah. Oh, Goth Girl. Oh no, what? Jennifer, I don't care about the Grim Reaper. Or I don't care, the Grim Reaper could kill Jesus if he wanted to. I bet you he already did. Jesus and the Grim Reaper at Olive Garden. Jesus, I hear the service here is great. Death, skeleton noises. Yeah, I mean, for what it's worth, the angel of death is a servant of God. Um, he's there in Exodus. He's there in Revelation. So yeah, death is a real guy. Um, but yeah, he serves Jesus. They're friends. um, but yeah, uh, man, there are several. Oh yeah, first I want to talk about this. Oh, I bet death and Jesus are good friends. Yeah, I mean, the angel of death. He's an angel. He's made to serve and worship and be in relationship with God. And so the fact that he still serves God after Lucifer fell, which means he wasn't part of the one third that revolted. Even in Revelation, we see death again serving God, and so the angel of death, and so yeah, that shows that he is faithful. He's a good guy. Um, he's got a really unfortunate job, but yeah, he's a good guy. Um, anyway, remember you created in your yeah. Before the evil days come and the years draw near, which you will say, yeah, death is always shown as unholy, but technically he is a holy figure. Exactly. If we just lived forever, we'd have immortality, which because of sin we and impureness we cannot have. That's not ours anymore. Um, we gave that up when we chose to disobey God and rebel. And so, again, the angel of death, I'm sure he's not thrilled about what he has to do either. Um, but if he didn't do his job, we'd be given an insane gift that we could never earn. And so, like, that would be problematic. That there would not be justice in that. And so he has to do what he has to do. But anyway, yeah. Um, this is big. I like this point here. Of remembering God. In the early days before things get bad, because If you remember, if you know God, if you build that foundation, if you establish a relationship with Him and a faith in Him, then when things get bad, you've got something to fall back on. It's easy to say, all right, I know God will get me through this. He's shown me that He's faithful before. I know I can trust God. And so even when things are bad, you won't be shaken. Whereas, if you either don't know God at all, or maybe you're one of the people that would say, oh, I'm a Christian, I prayed once. Well, if you don't have that faith, if you don't know God, then when things get bad, are you going to say, oh, well, maybe now I'll accept God? There are times where that happens. Um, but when you start to see the evil of the world and you start to, that grabs your attention, you'll become, it's easier to become so hyper fixated on all the negative things that the good things of God that would lead you to Him can become easy to miss. And so, yes, that's not to say don't pursue God when things are bad. When things are bad, turn to God. He'll help you more than anything else. No one else can help you, only God can. But when things are good, establish that faith. You build your faith, establish your relationship with God, get to know Him more, spend time with Him, seek Him out, so that when things do get bad again, because it'll happen, you'll know who has your back. You'll know who's standing beside you. It's kind of like, say, the apocalypse happened. I don't think the apocalypse is happening anytime soon. Um, but I think of like the doomsday preppers who like have basements or bunkers full of like thousands of canned foods. Those guys, maybe they look crazy, but they are prepared. Is the thing they're preparing for going to happen? Probably not. But like, say hypothetically it does happen. Well, because they've been preparing so long, because they're so ready for this, when it happens, they're unaffected. They're fine. But then say it happens and you've got someone like me. I've never stocked food. I don't have any sort of emergency rations. I'd be in trouble. It would be much harder for me now to get food because now everyone's going to try to get it. It's going to be way harder to do, and I'm probably not going to make it out of this. But the people who had been preparing before this even happened, they're ready for this. They saw that this was coming. They have stuff to fall back on. They're going to make it through. I bet the apocalypse is when the internet gets turned off. See, I wouldn't mind. Um, except I would in some ways. Like I'd miss you guys. Um, but ultimately, like beyond certain things, like I don't know. I think I'd be more okay with that than a lot of people. I enjoy like not using my phone and stuff on some days. But like yeah, I think the world would probably end if we lost the internet. That would be crazy. Um, but then also yeah, fear God and His commandments. I think right here Solomon might be talking about the book of Proverbs, which would make sense. Uh, but again, I think more broadly, he's talking about the words of God, the things that God teaches. Where does he go? Or where was it? Um, there was something that was said here. Oh, anything? Yeah, beware of anything beyond these. If it's not from God, other people might try to offer you wisdom or advice. But if it's not founded upon things and truths that God has laid out, then we have no reason to trust it. Sure, it might sound good in the moment, but what God says is definitive. God knows what He's talking about. So when He gives us advice, we can rely on that. We can count on what God said. We can follow that, and He tells us what's going to happen, and that's not going to change. But if you have some random person who thinks they're really smart and wise, they try to tell you, "Oh yeah, do this thing in this situation, it'll go well." Well, if he doesn't know what he's talking about, it might do nothing. It might get worse. There's no guarantee with his words because they're not founded on anything other than it sounded good to him. And so again, build your life upon what God says. God isn't just here. I think a lot of times people have the idea that God is like just some cosmic buzzkill who wants to tell you all these rules and all these things that you have to do, and you're gonna go to hell if you don't do all this stuff. That's not what God is. God like legitimately loves you more than you will ever know, and so the rules that He lays out aren't so that you're bored or that life is miserable. It's to protect you. It's like parents telling their kids, "Hey, don't touch the hot stove," or "Don't play in the road." Kids might think to themselves, "Oh, I want to play in the road. I want to touch the hot stove." Um, sure, you go for it. It's not going to end well. Similarly, God tells us we shouldn't. He'll let us. If we want to play in the road, God will let us play in the road. If we want to touch the hot stove, God will let us touch the hot stove. We're not going to like what happens. Um, and then we'll realize, oh my gosh, yeah, I guess he knew what he was talking about. Mom and Dad knew what they were talking about when they told me don't do those things. God knows what He's talking about when He tells me don't do those things. And then the other thing is like sometimes the problem, the pain, the trouble that it causes might not be so apparent. You touch the stove, you get burned pretty quickly. You realize, okay, I shouldn't do that. with a lot of the sins, the things God lays out, is because those sins might not bear immediate bad fruit that you're going to notice right away and say, oh, this is so bad. It might be a thing that's gradual, that builds up so slowly or gradually that you don't notice it. Or it might bear effects way down the line later in life or on other people, and you don't know that you're hurting people. You don't know that you're causing bad things to happen. But God knows what's going to happen, and so He's warning you ahead of time so you can avoid those things before they become issues. If the internet shuts off, it's not all the phones and all that. It's 99% of companies, including energy, food, water, plants, trades, stores most of the time, TV stations, and movies, heating companies, etc. All those things require the internet in some important way, even if it doesn't seem like it at first. I tell you, if that's something you're worried about, go online. There are websites where you can download the entirety of Wikipedia, and it's way smaller than you'd think. There's your backup internet. Communication will be tough. But I'm not a doomsday prepper, so I don't really know what goes into that stuff. Uh, but again, yeah, and then we conclude with the end of the matter. All has been heard. Fear God and keep His commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. For God will bring every duty into every deed into judgment, with every secret thing, whether good or evil. So again, we were just talking about the importance of following God's commands, not because He wants to be some dictator, but because He loves you and He genuinely wants to see you live the best life that you can, and He wants to be a part of that. He created us. He invites us to be called His sons and daughters, His children. Think of a dad who loves their kid, a good dad. Not I don't not everyone has that, and that's unfortunate. But ideally, a dad should love their child and want to be part of their child's life, not in a weird way, but like in a way of like they want to be so close because they care that much. Like that's such a beautiful thing. And that's what God wants with us. And so He's not trying to, micromanage every area of your life. He's just saying He loves you more than absolutely anything, and He wants you to enjoy the gift that He's given you in life, in this world. God loves everyone. The only person He doesn't love is pulls out a list with no names on it. Yeah, no, there's no one on that list. Um, and then again, we were talking about how I think it was here. We were talking about judgment somewhere, and how your judgment isn't always bad. There's good judgment, and so even again, they echo that right here. Solomon echoes, "For God will bring every deed into judgment with every secret thing, whether good or evil. Whatever you're doing, you'll stand. When you stand judgment before God, God remembers everything. He saw everything. That thing you just did right now, He saw that. Was it a good thing you did? Was it a bad thing you did? Was it just a thing you did that's not going to have any impact? Who knows? But He saw it, and so if it's got any significance one way or the other, it's going to get mentioned. If the nice thing is, if you have Jesus, Jesus is your witness. Jesus has died on your behalf, and so if you allow Him, He'll stand there and He'll say, "Look, I know this person has done all these bad things, but they died when I died on the cross, and He'll say that because of that, they are dead to their sin and they live through me." God will say that, and so Jesus will testify for us. We'll be judged innocent, even though we're not, because Jesus will vouch for us. Jesus takes care of us, and so again, don't just go on sinning. Don't say, "Yeah, I prayed once. I know Jesus. I can sin." No, um, because then that's a topic for a day. We could go down that rabbit hole. But like, you be sincere in what you're doing. Sincerely love God. Sincerely seek Him out. And as long as that's where your heart is with God. Your heart's with Jesus. He'll take care of you. And even when this happens, when you have to face judgment, you'll be way better off for it. It'll go amazingly. It'll be intimidating, sure. I'm not looking forward to standing before God and having Him remind me of all these things. But gosh, it's going to feel nice when He says, at the end of it all, "It's okay. I know your heart. I have your heart. You are mine." And so that's what we should look to. Do the things we do in the meantime matter? Yes and no. There are small things. Don't focus on the small things too much, on the things that are going to be here today and gone tomorrow. They're not going to last. This whole book has told us that. But focus on the big picture. Focus on the impact that you can have on those around you, on the ways that you can improve the lives of other people, on the ways you can serve God and glorify and honor Him in your life. I think that's the takeaway of the book of Ecclesiastes. We eat, sleep, drink, marry, because you're going to live today and die tomorrow. That's depressing. Nothing you do matters. No one's going to remember you. That's depressing. But if you have God, then that shifts your perspective, and all of a sudden, there's value and there's significance beyond anything you could ever imagine. And that's amazing. That's the takeaway of Ecclesiastes. So I don't think I'm missing anything. I think that's the end of Ecclesiastes. Yeah, and then we go to Song of Solomon. That's a fun book. That would be a crazy one for a Bible study stream. I think Twitch might not like some of the stuff in there actually, but beautiful book. With that, that's Ecclesiastes. I don't know. Does any we generally you after we finish the book and our discussion, that would be like the end of the Bible study stream, and so like I don't want to just say oh we're done. If anyone's got other stuff they want to bring up, if anyone's got like questions, or if people have like points that they noticed throughout the books or things they want to talk about, um, I'd open that up. I say, and again, anytime anyone can always say stuff. But before we go, you got nothing, Skunk? Or anyone else? Chat, are we looking good? In the meantime, to buy time. Well, actually, oh yeah, please drop it. Say it. I got a Lewis. Well, that's good. Lewis is a pet skunk to others in chat. Lewis is awesome. Um, I'll buy time for people a little bit to put stuff if they want. Simply again by saying thank you all so much for recently. Uh, for one thing, I think Twitter is about to catch up and almost surpass Twitch, which is wild. Um, and then YouTube again. We've been doing shorts this past week, and so we posted one Bible short, which is amazing. I loved it. I was really happy with it personally. 7 more followers until 50. Yes, and then we're gonna get a Discord server. That'll be so cool. So if we want a Discord server, following on Twitch will get us that. It's free. Um, I won't promote it too much. I think the Bible should be more about God, than you know, but it helps. It helps us reach more people with what God's doing. So there's that. Um, but then like we had our one Bible short where we read Proverbs 3, and it got like 80 views, and I was so happy. I was like, oh, that's so cool. And then we did the Hog Rider one, and that had 80. And then a few hours later, it had over 1,000, and I was like, oh my gosh, uh, that was so cool. Skunk, thank you again for redeeming that at that time. I guess that was a great idea that you had. I thank God for that. Um, and then yesterday, we uploaded the Psalms, or it was the yeah Psalms 23 short. The Psalms 23 short is about to catch up to Hog Rider. Like I think it's at around 1,000 now. It's like that's 1,000 people within the past day that have listened to a chapter from the Bible, and I really enjoy that chapter of the Bible. I think it's a really beautiful one. So that's almost 1,000 people that have listened to the Bible in the past day, which is so cool to think about. Like Jesus is getting places. Jesus would get places without us, but like we're here to witness that. Like we're getting to be a part of it. Like that's so cool. That makes me so happy. Like again, think of God as like your dad. It's kind of like when your dad's out in the garage working on the car or whatever. And it's like, does he really need your help out there? No. Are you probably gonna get in the way a little bit and make things slower and less efficient than they could be if he did it by himself? Yeah. But does he want you there because he loves you? Yes. And so I don't know. It's like getting to see God at work, getting to see what he's doing, and you know, I he'd be way better off doing without me. But like the fact that he lets all of us be a part of it, that's so cool. I love that. And so like I thank you to everyone whoever has been watching these things apparently. Um I hope we're offering something of value to the world. I hope there's a purpose behind this. I hope that people take something good from this, that it's not just random entertainment content on the internet. There's enough of that. I'm glad to entertain people, but if that's all we're doing, that's the vanity that Solomon talked about. No one's going to 30, 40, 50, 70, 1,000 years from now, no one's going to remember that one VTuber with black and white hair and a cool coat that played games. No one's going to remember that. The people are going to remember Jesus. And so if we can contribute to that message, well, then we're doing the good work. We're doing the stuff that does matter. And again, that's what Ecclesiastes is all about. Look at that. I didn't plan that. That's so cool. Um, but with that, I think that'll about do it for today. It's a shorter one, but Ecclesiastes isn't a terribly long book, but it's beautiful. There's a lot of value here in this. So again, I hope that it resonates with people. But with that said, thank you all so much as always for joining us and for watching. Love you all so much. God bless. You guys have an amazing day. We'll see you next time.